Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on George Floyd. Um, Recently, there was a video that has been just going viral about a man who had, to all accounts, resisted arrest and was taken by the police and put onto the ground. They just put him on the ground, and one cop was kneeling on his neck. And basically, they kept the guy on the ground for like 10 minutes while the guy was pleading for them to stop, to basically, that he wouldn't, put up a fuss. He would just, get into the car. He just wanted to be let go. And he was saying he couldn't breathe. People that were filming it and, onlookers were all pleading for, the police just to put him in the car and let him go so that he wouldn't be being crushed on the ground. And the police the whole time had almost like a stoic kind of emotionless facial expressions. They were just these. It was very surreal, where they just looked like they were pinning this guy on the ground, and this is them doing their job, them carrying out what they think is justice, and they basically executed the guy. The guy was murdered because of negligence. The man was, if I do judo, just I want to kind of give some understanding here. I do judo. I've been doing judo for over 20 years. I'm a third-degree black belt actually in judo. And one of the things that you learn in judo is how to do chokes. Now, despite the name choke, choke doesn't actually mean blocking the airway. It usually involves blocking the blood supply. Because if you fight in judo and you try to block the airway, well, the guy that you're fighting with they can hold their breath for 1-2 minutes, and as a result, that's a lot of time in a judo match that just gets wasted, where you're just doing absolutely nothing. A much more effective way to beat your opponent is to actually choke them, where you block the blood supply to the brain. Now, if you block the air supply to the brain, it takes about a few seconds, like maybe 2-3 seconds, to just knock the person out. And I've done this actually in competition before, and usually, because you're properly trained in judo, if you see the person getting knocked out, you immediately let go, because you know that if you go longer, you will kill the person. Okay? If you cut the blood supply too long to the brain, the person just dies. So you can be trained to control a person on the ground with your knee on their neck. Okay? And you can actually do that in such a way that it will not choke them and it will not cut their airway either. But it will be uncomfortable. So I think that's what the police officer intended to do. However, if you're crouching down on somebody's neck for a long time, your legs will get tired. And what will happen is, as your legs get tired, just like anything else, you need to lean against something to just, to compensate for your legs getting tired. They just get tired from being in that awkward position for too long. And you'll lean against something, and that guy's neck just happens to be there. And you'll lean against that neck, and you will put that pressure on that will cut the blood supply to the brain, and you'll knock the guy out. So if you watch the video, the guy is pleading for his life, basically, for the first few minutes of the video. So obviously he could breathe, because if you can breathe, you can actually communicate. If you can't breathe, you can't speak. It's just how breathing and speaking work. You have to breathe to be able to speak. However, the man would be very uncomfortable on the ground. And as I said, once the cop gets uncomfortable as well, he would put the pressure onto the neck and basically cut the supply to the brain. And as I said, a few seconds, the guy's dead. That's really how much time it takes if you do it improperly. And the, the sad thing is, if you looked at the cops' expressions, they had no emotion. They had no concern for the life that it was in their hands. And the police have to realize that their job is to serve and protect. And that has a whole bunch of different meanings. Um, they serve the public. And when they serve the public, they protect the public from criminals, right? That's kind of the basic thing. But they also serve the criminals. And when I say they serve the criminals, what I actually mean is that they believe in due process. That even though somebody potentially is has committed a crime, that person is not guilty until they go to court and are convicted of that crime. So they have to serve that cause. And that means the second part, which is protecting, they have to protect that person. And when you put that person into a situation where their life is at risk, as I said, kneeling down on a person's neck for any length of time, doesn't matter how careful you are, you will put their life at risk. And this is why I would say this is a negligent act of murder. It was, where the cops really weren't looking out to serve and protect the people, including the criminals, that they have to protect. And it was a lack of training, maybe. But what I've been told is that in the handbook for these cops is a rule that they can do this. This is a rule within their handbook that if they know how to do this process of kneeling and controlling the head and controlling the body by placing your knee on their neck, which, as I said, you can do. In Judo, we can do these kind of things as well, where we control our opponent by kneeling, by putting pressure on them in a certain way that keeps them stationary. This, is considered an acceptable procedure in an arrest. Okay, so this cop could have been just doing what he thought was the right thing, and I actually feel like it's that he was in that mindset, that he's thinking that he's upholding the law and doing the right thing by holding this person down. Now, this is where common sense would kind of kick in. That, if you think about it, well, you're putting pressure on the guy's neck. It's not really a healthy thing to do to somebody. And you should be looking out for that person's health. And that's where common sense sort of went out the window. So what I see, and this is a bigger issue than the issue that everybody kind of makes, they always try to make it a racial thing, that, oh, it's a white cop, black man, and that's as far as they think. And they try to make it a racial thing. I do not see it as a racial issue. This was an act of racism. This wasn't even an act of like some evil cop trying to just murder people for the sake of murdering people. It's actually a bigger issue. And the issue I see is that the system itself, the way that these police officers are trained, is fundamentally flawed. The way that they go about making an arrest is fundamentally flawed. If they think that this is the proper procedure, and this is something that they're not just doing in this one case, but maybe in many cases where they're putting other people's lives at risk, and doing so without any like malice or, but just thinking that this is the procedure and this is how we should behave, then that is a serious problem, because it goes beyond just one person. It's the whole system. And that is, to me, what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about, oh, it's a white man and he's so racist that he's killing this poor black man. That to me is not the story. And it's not even relevant. Like, I hate when people, the first thing that they do is they pick racism as being the justification for, or no, the reason behind why they did this act. I didn't see that. When you watch the video, they're stoic. They have no emotion. It's scary actually, because they lack emotion, even basic human decency. Like, oh, I'm so, we have basic empathy for people. Doesn't matter what race they are. We say, oh, is that guy okay? Basic empathy. So they lack that. And I think the reason they lacked it was they were trained to be stoic, that they weren't supposed to be acting on emotion. And that is where I see the problem, because they're not just acting without emotion, but they're acting in a way where they were trained in the wrong method, because this method can kill somebody. And you have to have some empathy. I don't want police to go around just being emotional wrecks, going around just, acting out of anger or whatever, or fear or whatever. I realize that they have to have some emotion. And I don't want them to be totally stoic. So there has to be this balance where they're empathetic to the people that they're serving and protecting, and they have they understand that they have a fundamental responsibility to protect all lives, even their own and other people's lives. So I kind of want to put this video out there because a lot of people on both sides, left and right, I think everybody is pretty much outraged about this. And one of the most common things, on the left, they blame it on racism. On the right, they say, oh, this evil cop guy, he, was acting out of just pure bad day, malice, wanting to kill somebody. But I think that that's not the case. I don't think it was racism, and I don't think it was a cop acting bad. And that to me is actually more scary, because if he wasn't trying to act bad, that means he was following a procedure that was fundamentally flawed and could cost more lives because other cops are also following that same procedure. And that to me is what we should be worried about. So let's look at how these cops are trained, and let's maybe reconsider their training methods. So these are my opinions on this issue, and I was terrified to watch this video. It was very painful to watch. I mean, it just went on and on. It was like over 10 minutes long of this guy just kneeling on this guy's neck. Just so insane. Just as somebody that knows, like because I do judo so long, I get very nervous if somebody even goes near my neck, because I know how risky it is. That's you can kill somebody so easily. So this has been my thoughts. Please comment below what you think about this. Was it murder? Was it negligence that led to murder, basically? Did you think it was racism? What are your thoughts? And please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. And yeah, thanks for watching.